You're watching WRAL News. If you are on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. If you are listening to us on a podcast, be sure to give us 5 stars and be sure to follow along. Luis Hernandez here, joined by Mark Bergen. And the big breaking news of the day, Mark, is that Will Wade is leaving NC State. He is one and done in Raleigh, and he is now going back to the Bayou, to LSU, where he was head coach for 5 years.
It's a tough spot for NC State to be in, Lewis, because we're coming off where we were around this time last year, coming off a 12-19 season where the year before the Wolfpack had gone to the Final Four under Kevin Keatts. They bring in Will Wade, a lot of the fanfare, a lot of excitement that he brought to the program, and now he's going to LSU, and Boo Corrigan, NC State's athletics director, is going to have to figure out who the next guy is going to be. So we're here, on YouTube going through our initial reactions with everything, but just what a gut punch if you're an NC State fan.
Gut punch is the right word for it. But it's also one of these things where when you go back and you look at Will Wade's history, besides LSU, he has never stayed at a head coaching position for longer than 2 years. There has always been kind of like this flirtation, if you will, between LSU and Will Wade. It just kind of has felt like as Matt McMahon, the LSU head men's basketball coach, as it seemed more and more likely that he would not be returning. When you're seeing names thrown out there, Will Wade, Will Wade, Will Wade, the NCAA investigation that he was fired for when he was there for 5 years as kind of a consequence of all of that. Most of what's happening there, impermissible benefits, is now legal in the modern landscape.
With NIL.
Exactly. This is not the, mid-aughts. This is not 2010. This is not, in 2019, right around then when he was like, oh, much time has passed. Him going back to McNeese State, or going to McNeese State, kind of staying in Louisiana initially, also kind of leaves that door open, I feel like. And now here we are dealing with the consequences of all this.
And I think that's a great segue of how we got here. So when we woke up on Wednesday morning, Lewis, if you noticed that LSU was in the process of hiring McNeese's Heath Schroyer as a senior administrator,
right?
Someone who had worked with Will Wade at McNeese, had previous history. And also LSU President Wade Rouse as well, and Schroyer had previously hired Wade at McNeese. So there was that. You also, if you looked on Twitter or X, you saw that from Will Wade's account affiliated with NC State that he was following, it was at least a dozen different LSU accounts. And it wasn't just Wade, it was also his special assistant, Reed Vile, as well, who is a special assistant to Wade, following all of these LSU accounts. We don't know the specific timing, but we know that those were the accounts that they were following most recently. So when we saw that coming off Wade all the way back on March the 12th saying, no, we're going to win, and we're going to win big at NC State, that's when this started to come to fruition. You mentioned McMahon still employed as of yesterday, fired as of today, and then we find out that Will Wade is going to be the next head coach at LSU.
And for context, for anyone wondering, we are recording this right now. It is Thursday, 2/12. So we're expecting to hear from Boo Corrigan. That'll, I'm sure, be on our YouTube page here if you're watching us there. We're going to have a lot more information. This is a developing story. It's going to kind of continue to unfold. So with what you're getting at there, just to emphasize, right, this is a case of the infrastructure at LSU is very Will Wade friendly. That's what I've been describing. It's his people. It's people that he has associated with for a very long time, who have given him that support as he's gone through this, show cause, as he's gone through this transition from LSU to McNeese State, now to NC State, and then back to LSU. So it's one of these things where the writing is a little bit on the wall as we go along. Let's take a second to look at the year that was for NC State under Will Wade, right? 20-14.
And losing 8 of their last 10 games is one of the last 4 into the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
I can't help but wonder, and a question I would have, do you think the players knew about this Louisville? Because maybe the high point of the season perhaps was the February win over UNC.
Right.
Granted, that came against the UNC team playing without Caleb Wilson, playing out with Henry Vesar.
Sure.
Fair. But from there, things sputtered down the stretch for the Wolfpack, and they do just enough to get to the NCAA tournament. Something that Wade did he did deliver on that promise, just barely, but he did do it.
You got to get in the NCAA tournament compared
Yes.
to the year before when they were not in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, I mean, I think that the fact that they finished the way they did is going to bring up a lot of questions. They were 10-8 in conference. I think when you look back at this season, what's so hard is the talk that was coming from Will Wade about how this is just the beginning. This is the worst NC State team you will see under me. Like, I don't have the exact transcription of his ACC tournament remarks, but I believe it was Shelby Swanson with the News and Observer asking him, hey, do you have any interest in the LSU job? And he essentially kind of very snarky, is that job open? I'm here in Raleigh. I'm focused on this. We're building something. I've talked to administrators. I think you have that, you do that, right? Sure, you're going to deny regardless, but it's that kind of the attitude, which is part of the reason why LSU wants him, is that attitude that kind of like I think is going to be the reminder of this LSU or this NC State era under Will Wade this year.
And let me piggyback off this too, because we're talking about turning points this season, right, Lewis? Go back to December 17th, the win over Texas Southern. Paul McNeil makes a school record 11 three-pointers in one game.
He's good.
It was 47 points, most points by an ACC player since 1991, Lewis. The Wolfpack as a team in that game had their third most three-pointers in a game ever in school history.
Right.
They win big in that game. And he goes, after the game, immediately after, talking about his team's casual approach and mistakes and shoot-around, saying this is beyond concerning. It's becoming a major problem. This isn't kindergarten anymore. I wonder at what point with the players to where when he's that hypercritical after a big win, where that rhetoric just becomes white noise.
I think you have to, it's talking the talk, it's walking the walk. And there are plenty of ways to coach. I do think that when you're more abrasive as a coach, you have to back that up.
Yeah.
And, I think there's, one season, a lot of frustration, obviously, for people. I do want to kind of turn now, Mark, if we can,
Sure,
to the like kind of tail end of this, the financial elements and
Sure.
the buyout. And then we can look ahead to what's next.
So
for NC
a
State.
reported 7-year deal at LSU, big difference. This is reportedly, this is what we're seeing. We're going to get more information in terms of when this becomes official. At LSU is going to have more NIL money, more salary for staff, more resources. So that is one component of this, Lewis. What else is there here?
Well, it's like, I mean, we're talking about that's things at LSU, right? But back at NC State, you're looking at buyouts. You're looking at the financial repercussions of this for the Wolfpack. The way the contracts are set up, right, is that if a coach is fired without cause, at a certain point in their contract, they are going to get X number of dollars. If that money is essentially guaranteed. If a coach leaves at a certain point in their contract, they are going to have to give X number of dollars. Something like that is often paid by university that they are going to. So per the contract, right? And once again, we're still trying to find out questions if there's some kind of agreement reached, what that looks like. But per the contract, you're looking at $5 million if he hey, leaves now, you're done, right? $5 million that NC State is owed. If he leaves after April 1st, $3 million is what NC State is owed.
Yep.
So how does all of that kind of come together? LSU is paying a lot of buyout money right now. Brian Kelly, their head coach.
And I've got the figures right in front of me here,
go ahead,
Lewis.
yeah.
So we're talking about Will Wade's buyout initially. So the difference between $3 and $5 million, is there any compromise there? It's going to be somewhere in that range.
Yeah, exactly.
To buy out Brian Kelly, not to coach the LSU Tigers in football. $54 million not to be a coach, Lewis.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Lane Kiffin's contract, his replacement, $91 million.
Yes.
To buy out Mac McMahon, the basketball coach fired today.
Yeah, hours ago.
$8 million, Lewis.
Wow.
And then the football roster alone. So we're not even talking about basketball. Sure. LSU's football roster, $40 million. I want to know where this money is coming from at LSU.
Right. That's hey, if you're in, I mean, I'm sure there are people who know there's folks, but that's the question I have as well. And then that's on top of that, right? Women's basketball is they have one of the bigger programs, right? Under Kim Mulkey, they're a 2 seed this year in the tournament. They are, because there's such a big program, there's a lot of investment within the women's basketball program as well. So it's just like LSU is going very big on athletics, and NC State is kind of becoming a victim of that in that they're coming to get their guy, essentially.
Do you want to transition this conversation now to potentially who could be the next coach? So
yeah, let's bring it back to NC State.
Sure.
What comes next?
Justin Gainey, he's an assistant at Tennessee under Rick Barnes. He's been there since 2021. Gainey was a part of the process where they brought in Will Wade a year ago. So he's where I think the conversation begins, Lewis.
I agree. He's the people with NC State ties, right? Of kind of like those former players, things like that. He's probably the one highest up there, unless you want to talking about Herb Sendek, but I don't think people want to have that conversation with Santa Clara. But I think so. He's high up there. He's the associate head coach at Tennessee, so a program that's gone to the Sweet 16 3 straight years, that has thrived under Rick Barnes, that has had some high-end talent, that's been able to recruit well, has had a lot of resources. Justin Gainey, I think, and also kind of in some ways, I think serves as like a bit of a palate cleanse, if you will, after Will Wade, where you have someone who comes in with Will Wade as, he is the big time kind of like name that you're getting from outside doing all this. And then Gainey is someone who understands NC State, played here, started his coaching career here, and kind of brings that element of college athletics in.
A guard for the Wolfpack from 96 to 2000, and then on Sydney Lowe's staff as well to get his foot in the door in the coaching world from 06 to 08.
Right.
And so that's Justin Gainey, and those are his ties to NC State. You go to St. Louis coach Josh Schertz as well, 50 years old, just brought St. Louis to the second round of the tournament before losing to a number 1 seed in Michigan. I've heard his name in the mix as well, Lewis.
And Schertz and what's their mascot?
The Billikens?
The Billikens, yeah. That's right. The Billikens, they dominated Georgia in the first round of the NCAA tournament. The thing with him that's a little bit complicated is he signed an extension with St. Louis the week before the NCAA tournament. So a new contract naturally is going to bring about more money that would have to be paid to St. Louis. But someone who has shown success, not just, this season, but historically, definitely an interesting name as well for NC State if they're going the route of someone from kind of like a smaller program bringing up with that experience.
Yeah, Schertz also with experience at Indiana State and then in the Division II level at Lincoln Memorial before that. Yep. We've got Flynn Clayman from High Point as well. High Point with a big upset win in the first round of the NCAA tournament as well. So that's another possibility. 2 others. Kevin Keats is still unemployed. He's an analyst for ESPN now.
Keats is not going to be the head coach of NC State.
I would not expect that. And then Hubert Davis. I mean, we at least have to mention the name. It's ridiculous. I will admit that.
It is incorrect also. Someone I commented on a post that on Instagram, and they said Hubert Davis has the opportunity to do the funniest thing. Hubert Davis is not going to be the head coach. But, I do think the High Point you mentioned, I remember watching, obviously they pulled off that, big upset in the NCAA tournament over Wisconsin. They did a kind of behind the scenes locker room type look in. And what was his last name again? Clayman? Flynn Clayman was electric. Like just watching as a head coach, the way he talked, it was kind of thing where like he finished his post-game speech was essentially along the lines of, they beat X number of, Q1 teams and you just beat them. That means you can beat anyone in the country. And like you ready to run through a brick wall after listening to something like that. So it's, there are definitely options out there. It's just, is this what you thought could happen? This is a tough position, almost more from a morale perspective, to rally a program after, the head coach leaves after 1 season.
So that's a short list. We'll hear from Boot Corrigan later today, and you might hear his commentary before you listen or watch this. What I would also say is, so keep an eye on that, but then another coaching search right down the road at UNC going on simultaneously as well. So we've got our hands full here, Lewis.
Did the digging, by the way, on this one. The last time UNC and NC State had a coaching search at the same time, like in the same year. It maybe not like, exact overlap, but in the same year. 1946, UNC hired Tom Scott. NC State, Everett Case. So if the Wolfpack could get someone of the stature of Everett Case again, I'm sure they would be plenty excited. Anything else you want to add, Mark?
No, Lewis, thank you for this, and we'll see where this goes. We're going to have you covered here on all the platforms that we have here at WRAL of the Wolfpack's coaching search, the Tar Heels coaching search. And Lewis, thanks for your time and insight today.
March Madness. I like it when March Madness is about the games, not when it's about the changes in personnel. But here we are.